good evening, everyone. Welcome back to FCM Live. This is the Real Talk episode with me. This is my second one for tonight, and that's Real Talk with Abel Pagaling. And tonight, my last guest, and a very important one, is Mr. Chad Ford. He is the federal conservative nomination for Calgary Centre, and we're going to talk about his journey into politics and get to know him a little bit, and at the same time see how he could give us some insight on how we can participate in the federal election or in the political arena. So welcome, Chad. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I love the location, the gym. I've been taking pictures on Instagram of all the slogans around here. So
that's right. Yeah, Relentless Transformation Gym was kind enough to let us use this facility. But thank you for coming, and I look forward to having a great discussion with you. So let's get to it. Tell us a little bit about you and your political journey.
Right. So it's a pretty recent one. Maybe a bit of my background leading up to this. I was born and raised in Alberta. I went to the University of Alberta, and while I was there to help pay for my tuition, I joined the military. And so after I finished graduating, I did tour duty in Afghanistan, and then I moved down to Calgary, where I've been in the energy sector ever since. 7 years ago, I founded a software company, which I'm still the president of, and the software company is used by major projects to help them through the regulatory process. Specifically, we help companies better engage with the public who's impacted by the projects. So a lot of the controversial projects that we see in the energy sector, we're very familiar with it. I mean, we've done over 500 projects across North America. But the last 3 years, it's been really frustrating to be an Albertan, a Canadian, and in the energy industry. We've seen our energy industry gutted. As entrepreneurs, we've had taxes piled on us. As individual taxpayers, we've had it harder. We had less and less of a paycheck left. And I don't believe we can handle 4 more years of Justin Trudeau because of that. When I think about the energy sector, perhaps the thing that makes me the saddest is this is a man-made creation. There's no market forces that are causing what the problems we have. In fact, the only other oil-producing country in the world that's having the economic recession we're having is Venezuela.
That's
a socialist country that has destroyed their government. It's destroyed their energy industry. And so about a year ago, I thought, something's got to be done. How do I get involved? And so I joined the board at the local level. And how it works in Canadian politics is each individual jurisdiction, certain ridings, get to vote for their member of parliament. And in Calgary Centre, I joined the Conservative board because I wanted to see how we can make Justin Trudeau a one-term prime minister. And so as we were sitting there, we had what's called a nomination. And a nomination is when we as a party decide who's going to represent us in the next federal election. And we had that nomination going on for a few months, and there wasn't really any traction that was happening. And that's a big problem for me because Calgary Centre right now is held by a Liberal incumbent, which means the governing party has the seat. And so if I want to make a difference, it starts with where I live, in Calgary Centre. And so I was raising some concerns about what the direction we were going. And a couple of people said, well, why don't you run? Well, it's a big decision.
Why did you take action?
Yeah, it's a big decision. I mean, I run a nonprofit that I created. I run a company. Our company has projects around North America, but I'm a proud Canadian. I want to see Canada succeed. And so I took some time and I waited till Christmas Day when I made the final decision, and then talked to friends and family, and I said, let's do it. I served my country before, and I want to serve it again because I believe in the cause once again. And so then I announced first week of January that I was running, and the next week, suddenly the party said, you know what, let's call the nomination. It looks like there's some excitement. And so I've been door knocking ever since. In fact, just prior to coming here, I was out door knocking. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I didn't know that you served in the military. I have a profound appreciation for people in the military. My grandfather was in the military in the Philippines, and I know he served. So I've always admired.
Thank you.
People.
What did he do?
He was he was a soldier in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And he was.
Do you know what branch he was in?
I think he was a ranger.
Ranger, so infantry. So that was the same as me. I was in the infantry at the time.
And actually, Ning, who was my last guest, the immigration consultant, her husband is in the military.
In Canada?
In Canada, that's right.
Oh, we should afterwards chat about that.
Yeah, and I believe their son, my cousin, is now in a military school or something like this. But
the military has a lot of great values it teaches you. You know, it teaches you discipline, fitness, camaraderie. And the one thing I like about the military is everyone's the same. You know, they joke that there's no black, white, or yellow people in the military. There's just green. You know, you're all part of the same group, and I really appreciate that camaraderie that comes out of that. And for me, a big reason why I joined the military, I mean, part of it was, I'm not going to lie, I was younger, it was just adventure. You know, that was part of it. But another part was I believe in serving. I think it's important to serve your community that you're involved in, and that was one avenue to do it. Another element was I believed in the cause that we were looking at. You know, that was post 9/11 at the time. There was serious problems around the world, and I still do believe that it's important that when you have a failed state like there was in Afghanistan, that the rest of the world comes in to try and cause order, especially when the problems are spilling over in that entire region, and as we saw eventually in New York City. So.
That's right, and you know, I think it's getting better now in many ways, but I think there's still some challenges that you know in the world scene with terrorism. And
I think we're in a profoundly dangerous time. One of the reasons why I said to Ron is I'm profoundly concerned about the naivety that this federal government has approached federal affairs. I don't know how we've managed to get the two largest economies in the world angry at us simultaneously. You know, we should be a natural geographic bridge between China and the U.S. and really benefiting from both. And yet right now we have both countries upset with us. And I think that, part of it's what I call a superficial approach to essentially everything by the Prime Minister. His idea of foreign affairs is dressing up in the local outfits and going to dance parties. And yet governing a country takes real policy, and it takes, looking after the interests of Canadians first when they're going to these trade negotiations. So that's one of the things that, drove me to saying, I was tired of being embarrassed when I saw my Prime Minister go overseas. How can we do a better job?
Right, and then I think part of how I feel about it is, I grew up here in Canada. But I came here when I was 12 years old, but I pretty much lived my life here in Canada and in Calgary. And I think in a way there's been that privileged mentality that, hey, we're Canadians, we're nice people, and everybody's gonna like us. But that's not the case. I think there's more that we need to do, and we got to protect that image. Is that something you think that's been lost in the existing government?
I think they've played up a lot in the stereotype of us being really nice people, and the result has been we've been taken advantage of a lot. One of the things that I'd kind of go to is I think a lot of the foreign affairs by the federal government has been more based on focusing on how people are different and trying to win political points at home, as opposed to the hard work of rolling up your sleeves and getting things done. Yes, we want to have a positive image internationally, but our first priority is to make sure that we're doing things in the best interest of our country. And sometimes that means we're not going to agree with everyone, but we can do it in a respectful manner. And so I think that, that's definitely an area that we can do it. One thing I'll just make a joke about when it comes to, our Canadian image is sometimes I laugh, you'll be traveling overseas and you'll see a table of obnoxious Americans and they're getting drunk and they're causing a bunch of trouble. And then you go talk to them, you find out they're from Saskatchewan. And so I think, we're a pretty diverse country. There's a whole bunch of things there. And
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about the Calgary Center, the area that you are running, or
I'm running in,
You're running in. What's for the Calgarians who are watching the show, what area are those? What communities are those?
So this is the federal jurisdiction, and I love Calgary Center. I've lived here for 11 years. I came from Edmonton, and I loved Calgary when I moved down here. Calgary Center is from the Bow River down to Deerfoot.
Okay.
37th. Oh, sorry. From the Bow River down to Glenmore.
Right.
37th over to Deerfoot.
So it's pretty.
It's a big riding. 110,000 people.
I was going to say that's a very concentrated area.
And it's the heart of Calgary. And Calgary is the heart of the energy industry in Canada. And the energy industry is the heart of the economy in Canada. And so I'm very proud to be part of this. And I think that we deserve a bigger voice in this riding. For how much we contribute to Canada, we should really have someone that's articulating our concerns at a national level. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to run.
That's awesome. And of course you have international background as well in Afghanistan, which will play in a big role should you expand later on in the political.
Well, I think it kind of, to me, it goes back to when I saw a problem that I thought needed to be addressed, I was willing to serve for that. And I see this as a lot the similar way of that authenticity I hope that I'm able to display through that. And I'm proud of my country, and I think that shows that I was proud of it too. So.
And speaking of being proud,
Yeah.
we have a lot of immigrants in this
Yeah.
country, and I would even say that Canada is becoming a land of immigrants, new immigrants.
Yeah.
But there is this almost like a complacency
Yeah.
that they don't want to get involved in the political scene. What are some of your thoughts on this? How do we encourage new immigrants, more specifically visible minorities, into participating in helping out with your campaign,
Yeah.
or getting the word out there, or just going out and voting?
Yeah, I think there's two things. First, what I'd start with is a great time to get involved is at the nomination level.
And that's what's happening now.
That's what we're doing right now. So
Okay.
nomination is when we're voting for who gets to represent a certain party, in my case, the Conservatives, at the next level. Because there's 110,000 people in this riding that I'm in. But there's only going to be about 3,000 Conservative members in that riding. And only maybe 2,000 will vote. So if you want your voice to be heard, a nomination's a great time. And one of the things we do at the Conservative Party is we try and expand who can actually be involved in it. So normally you have to be 18 years old and a citizen of Canada to vote. But for the nomination, you can be up to as low as 14,
That's amazing.
and you can be a permanent resident, because we want to bring more people into that process. The other thing is volunteering. I'm a huge fan of volunteering. I still spend about a third of my time volunteering. I run a startup grind, it's called. It's a nonprofit in town, focused on helping entrepreneurs. And there's so many volunteer opportunities. And one thing I'm very proud of on my campaign is we have many immigrants who are volunteering. I was just out door knocking earlier today with a lady named Jolly. She's from China, and she's a PhD student studying pipeline engineering. So you can tell she wants to actually get some pipelines built. I have a friend named Hussam Al-Ramini, who's from Jordan, who does a lot of our digital marketing. All our photography is done by a lady named Anna, who's from Russia and Israel. So, I think that there's a lot of messages that, if you want to get involved, there's so many opportunities to volunteer and get involved. And then you get to learn more about the process. You get to learn more about the issues by being around people. I certainly know Jolly, door knocking all day. I mean, we knocked on about 50 different doors, and she got to hear everyone's concerns there. So
That's awesome. And when is the nomination process?
the nomination vote is March 2nd.
March 2nd. Okay.
So if you're interested, March 2nd from 10 to 4 o'clock at the Kirby Centre. If you are a member of the Conservative Party living in Calgary Centre, that's your opportunity to have your voice heard and ideally vote for me.
And do they have to be in the Calgary Centre to be able
They
to
have to be
support
in
you?
Calgary Centre. If they want to learn the full details, they can go to my website, which is Ford2019.ca. And if they go to how to vote, it'll lay out the whole process there.
That's awesome. Well, Chad, thank you so much. That was a very insightful conversation I had with you. Thank you for coming and being a guest in my show, The Real Talk with me, Abel Pagaling. And I wish you the best. I'd love for you to come back here, and we could talk some more about the specific policies and the specific things you're doing for the campaign.
I'd love to, and let me just say thank you for your contribution here. I'm a huge fan of community, and I really appreciate what you're doing, a community where you bring people together. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's it, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to all our episodes today. And we'll see you next week when we have more guests coming. And just stay tuned to FCM Live. Thank you.